Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Chris Dunn. I'm with Blue Hive Exhibits, and you are watching the Event Marketers Toolbox. So hey, we're here. We're building a community of event professionals, trade show professionals, and we're basically bringing best practices and ideas and all sorts of case studies and so forth to the table, really to be the tide that raises all ships. So welcome aboard. I'm going to kick it over to my co-host Dana Esposito, also from Blue Hive.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dana Esposito. I've been in the trade show industry over 30 years, both as an exhibit designer, a leader of creative teams, and also helping with corporate strategy and also client advocate. We're sitting here today picking Jim Cermak's brain to kind of help educate all of us on how to do everything we do even better. So, Jim, who are you and what do you do?
Thanks, Dana and Chris. Jim Cermak. I am the founder of Trade Show University, which we have been podcasting for about 5.5 years, offering tips and strategies for exhibitors to really up their game. I've been in the business for about 30 years doing trade shows on the exhibitor side and learning and seeing what to do, what not to do, and then now taking all those years of experience in helping companies kind of leapfrog their timeline so that they're, instead of them learning trial by fire and trial and error, that they can learn from my experience and helping them, working with them one-on-one, also working with associations, organizations to do training for their exhibitors as well. So it's just been a fun journey. Thanks for having me on today.
Fantastic. Well, Jim, you are actually all three of us about 30 years in the industry. So
Yeah.
collectively, we're bringing nearly a century of brain power and trade show know-how to the table here.
Love
This
it.
is going to be a great conversation. Really looking forward to it. Thanks for joining us here. Um, Before we jump into this conversation, I just want to real quick highlight we're being basically sponsored by two companies today. So Blue Hive Exhibits. Dana and I work for this organization. We are a 20-year-old creative group. We're based out of the Boston area, and we also have a location on the West Coast. So Blue Hive is a full service custom exhibit house. We handle everything from really kind of the front end ideating around creating designs and marketing plans that drive what the booth looks like. We build, we store, we manage, we do all of that stuff so that you don't have to. We become an extension of that marketing team, which is really helpful these days when a lot of folks are seeing their headcount dwindle and their marketing team, kind of be the brunt of some headcount cuts. In addition to Blue Hive, we're also sponsored by Fist Bump. Fist Bump is the group, the creative agency that's actually sponsoring or that's doing this podcast right now. And what they do for us is they help up level our LinkedIn game, and especially by being the production company and the really the brains and the know-how and the heavy lifters behind the podcast. So not only did they help us put the agenda together and bring in the guests and do all the things that make us look wonderful here on the screen, but they also help us produce all the content that comes from that. Really helping leaders at C-level and so forth, folks in an organization, kind of add to the creative and the informative content that they're able to put out on social media, blog posts, website, SEO, all that stuff, right? So Fist Bump does a great job with helping us. Truth be told, tried to get it off the ground without their help, and it was a fail. So I'm happy to say they're here, and we're doing great. So just get that out of the way, and now we can kind of jump into the meat of our conversation.
All right. So, Jim, we did a lot of stalking of you as we do a lot of our guests. So, we did a little bit of homework and specifically things that we felt like trade show and event marketers could really benefit from. So, first, we want to start to talk a little bit about the power of goal setting and
Yeah.
why showing up without a goal is one of the most common and costly mistakes that trade show and event marketers could make.
Yeah. This is something that I see all the time. I'm a big goal person, so when I go into meetings, I want to find out what's our goal for even being here today. But especially for a lot of exhibitors, what I see that they fail to set goals, or they'll come up with vague goals that sound good. hey, we want to get as many leads as possible. That's our goal. It's like, well, is that 3? Is that as many as possible, or is it 300? Or, so unless you know that, unless you actually set the goal and strategically set the goal, you'll never know. You'll never know if that show was a true success for you. In fact, I'm such a passion about this. I've developed an entire course on goal setting for trade shows that's very, very specific. And it's a 5-video course, and it's getting ready to launch very, very soon. But I'm excited about it because I see so many companies just leave tons of money on the table because of this, because they have not set goals. And I'm not saying, when I say set goals, I'm not saying set one goal. I'm not saying, okay, we're going to come back with 30 qualified leads. Great goal, maybe. If that's what you determine that is your goal, that's going to make the show a success, that's great. But how much more can you be doing? How many more goals can you be setting? How many of your customers did you have meetings with? How many of your competitors did you go around and gather competitive intelligence from at the show? Because they were also exhibiting there. There's so many areas that you can set goals for. And I think so many companies just, they bypass all that, and they don't set good goals, and they don't even have the right metrics. So, and they might think of leads, and they say, we just want to get as many leads as possible, or we want to get 300 leads, and they put out a fishbowl, and they gather business cards because they give away some high ticket item like an iPad or something like that, which is great. And then you get this big fishbowl filled with business cards. But how many of those are truly qualified leads? How many of those are in your industry, or in your target audience, or in your sites that you want to get those types of people into your funnel, or not? And so but to have the goal, you also have to have the strategy behind it to make sure that everybody is in concert with making sure that you actually hit the goal that you set.
Yeah. Quantity over quality. No, quality.
Absolutely.
I'm dyslexic. Quality over quantity.
The other way around.
It's very hard to be a creative.
Yeah, but
A lot of us
actually,
are dyslexic.
yeah, absolutely. But you know what? There's also something to be said about quantity. So maybe one of your goals is we want to build up our email list. And so maybe that is part of it. And so you want quantity. I don't
Or
care
brand
if you
awareness.
are exactly. So I don't care if you are the decision maker at the company. Yes, I want to talk to the decision maker, but I also want to know, are you a user of our product? Then I want you on my email list, because I want to be able to tell you about the new features, and I want to tell you about new things that are coming out, and I want to get your feedback and all that stuff. So you can have, again, multiple goals depending on what you're trying to accomplish there at the show. So, most of the time, your main goal should be quality over quantity, but there may be a quantity goal too that's also built in.
I like what you said, though, also about, thinking about your competitors are also there, and what are they doing? What are they
Yeah.
saying? Because it's kind of like I was always taught, when there's a meeting or you're doing a presentation, think about sort of the hidden audience in the room. Like you're thinking so hard about who you're trying to talk to that you're forgetting that there are other people in the room that you're not considering that you're talking to, right? And that reminds me of when you're at a show like that, and there's so many of your competitors are there. What that means, like there's almost like recon, right? You can see what's going on, see who they're talking to. And I don't mean any of that in a shady way. It's really just like you're taking the temperature of the industry, and seeing what people are interested in. And it's just another form of education. So it's really, it's more face-to-face time, and it's more another great way to interact and see what's going on out there, what's important to your customers.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
One thing I want to, if I could jump in and add, is we had the benefit of having just done one of our trade shows recently. So, when we look at our customer list and so forth, and we're supporting 400 plus shows a year for our customers, but we also do a couple of shows. So it gives us an opportunity to put, our customers' shoes on, as it were, right? We stand in their shoes and understand where their pain points are. But what I wanted to add is, as I'm thinking about, we were at Exhibitor Live a couple of weeks ago in San Antonio. And yes, we did a lot of pre-planning. We built a lot of goals, and some of the things you guys are talking about as the exhibit manager, the person who's kind of charged with running the whole thing, like, don't forget to delegate to your team to do all of that stuff, right? So we had, I think, 5 or 6 people who were in San Antonio in order to support the booth and have the meetings and whatnot. But, you know, at some points, like, listen, we need 4 people in the booth right now. 2 people, go walk the floor, meet the vendors, you know, do that recon on the competitors, see what they're talking about, so that everybody's really kind of participating in this kind of information gathering process. And we bring it back, and we've got this large pool of data. We can start to sift through it and be like, well, what are these guys doing? What, you know, they seem to be deviating and going in a slightly different direction with their message. Why is that, right? So don't forget to delegate, right? We've got, again, I mentioned kind of coming into this, we're seeing this with our clients, marketing teams, exhibit, you know, management groups and so forth. They're not bursting at the seams with numbers, right? So don't forget that even though you might be one person, like, you can kind of tap that team and help achieve those goals by delegating, you know, throughout that group of folks.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It's a great point. It's a spectacular point, actually. One thing I like to ask, especially when I work with client and we have that first meeting where everybody who's going to be there at the show, we all get together on a Zoom call or whatever, and I ask for each person, why are you going? Why did they select you to go to this show? And there's so many times they just don't know. They can't verbalize, well, because I'm in sales. Okay. So what is your goal? Why are you going there? So encourage, you know, like you said, Chris, delegate, but I would be even more intentional and give people very specific things. Your goal at this show is you're going to be our main engager because you're an extrovert and you love talking to people, and you're not the detail person, but you're a great person to get people in and start asking questions. Then if they have real detailed questions, we'll have Bob, the engineer. We're going to send him over to Bob, and he's going to be in the back of the booth answering these questions and giving demos and things like that. But make sure each person has a role at the booth. And then also, okay, when the show is slow, and there's always times when the show is slow, and maybe you've got a booth that's near the back of the show, and you know, if it's one of these massive shows that you're not going to see people probably for 30 minutes because it's going to take a while for them to trickle to the back of the show. No one's running to the back of the show. They're stopping, and they're engaging. So it might be a little while. So don't have all 5 people that are going to be working your booth standing around for 30 minutes doing nothing, looking at each other, looking at their phones. No, give them things to do. Have a couple people in your booth, and the other 3 people, okay, you're Bob, you are going to ABC company, and you're going to try to make a connection there because we need a new vendor for our accounting software. And that's what their booth does. And Dave, you are going over here, and Beth, you are going over here, and you're gonna take pictures of our competitors' booths. And so make sure that each person has goals and they have things that they're going to be doing, and they know this ahead of time. It's not like you're looking around, everyone's standing around. You don't have to now go, okay, hey, why don't you has anyone gone to our competitors yet? You don't have to do that. Do that ahead of time. Have everybody have that in their mind as to what they're going to be doing while they're at the show.
Yeah, it's part of that pre-show planning, right?
Absolutely.
So
Getting the most out of that show, and the more that people are exposed to, the more they grow as a professional. There's so much people can learn when they're in a large environment like that with the rest of their team, their potential clients, and their competitors.
Yeah. And as you said, Dana, this all starts if you have goals. If you don't have a goal that says, we know, because we scoured the exhibit floor plan, we know that these 5 competitors of ours are going to be at the show. If you don't know that, then you don't know that you can do significant competitive analysis at the show while you're there and come back with all this data. You will have missed that opportunity, because a lot of times companies go to these big shows, or even they're a small show, and they're rolling out new products. They're rolling out new service. They're giving sneak peeks that you would never know. It's not on their website. It's not in press releases. It's right there at the show. And if you don't get over there, you're going to miss out. And all of a sudden you're going to be blindsided because you're how did we not see that coming? Well, if you went over to their booth during the show, very, very important to have those goals first, and then you can develop your game plan for each of your people.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a tremendous answer to a seemingly simplistic question. We could probably go on for hours just on that. You know,
Yeah.
It's interesting in the multiple episodes that we've done. Goals are always there. It's always underlined. Doesn't matter what we're talking about. But I wanted to kind of jump ahead because you've done some great work, obviously, in this training field, right? You're a person who really is passionate about helping up-level, especially new people to the industry. So you've got this 8-step roadmap to trade show success that you've created. And although we can't camp on each one for a lengthy period of time, can you take us through kind of what that roadmap looks like, and just kind of break it down, you know, somewhat simply, so that we can at least kind of give you a little precursor on what you've put together?
Absolutely. I love this. This is my entire journey. My entire career has been boiled down. And I'm like, what should every company, I don't care if it's your first time and you've got a tabletop and you're going to a local craft fair at a church. You're all the way up to, we've got this 50 by 50 exhibit, and it's 2 stories, and we've got 20 people that are going to be working, and we're investing $500,000 in that show. I don't care where you are in the spectrum. Every company should go through these 8 steps. And the thing is that most companies will skip right over or gloss right over many of these steps. So the first step is research the show. This takes into account that you've actually made a good decision that to be at this show, that this is a good show for you. It's going to be a good investment. This is where you should be. Assuming that, and I've got a whole video about how do you pick the right show and how do you make sure that you pick the right show. But you want to research it. And so many companies, especially if they've done this show before, they've done it year after year after year. They're in the industry. They blow right past this. We've been there. We know this show. We've been here so many times. But how many times do these shows constantly, they're adding new features, they're adding new sponsorships, they're adding new hours. There's a new section of the hall that's focused on environmentally friendly products. Or we have a showcase for this. And if you don't research the show, you're going to miss out. You're going to miss out on opportunities. So that's number 1, is research the show. Step 2 is to set the metrics and goals. Okay. We've already hit on the importance of this, but setting those metrics and goals, it's not just one goal, it's multiple goals, and really doing due diligence around that. The third step is focusing your messaging and your branding. And this goes back to the first step, which is researching the show. And part of researching the show is understanding the audience that's going to be at the show. Is it going to be decision makers? Is it going to be users of the product? Where do people fall? Who's coming to the show? Understand that, and the industry and all that. And now, how do I focus my messaging to attract that person, that audience? Because it might be different than other shows that you do during the year. So don't just be generic. And that's why working with a company like Blue Hive is going to be so important, because they are going to say, okay, we're going to help you to design a booth where we could swap out graphics and we could swap out messaging, because we know that you're taking this booth. You can't afford 2 huge displays, but you can afford 1 display, and then we can make modular panels and graphics. But that's a whole nother discussion that these folks here can help you out with. But it's honing in on that messaging, honing in on that branding, and keeping it as simple and clear as possible. We've all been to shows where we've seen people, and you go past a booth and you go, I don't even know what you do. I've looked quickly. I've glanced. I didn't read everything because it looks like a brochure on this one banner here. I have no idea what that says. I'm not taking the time, but I have no idea what you do. In fact, there was one show. This popped in my head just now. I was at a show, and it was a very stark booth. Very, very. It just had their name, and it had like some weird logo. And I was just like, I have no clue. I'm not even going to attempt to guess as to what they do. So I went up to them, and I said, and I asked them, what do you do? And he told me, I can't even remember what it was. And I said, well, why didn't you put that somewhere on here, what you do? Oh, we're trying to get people to be curious and come and ask us. I said, how's that working for you? He goes, I guess it's not too good. They were trying to be Apple. Apple's got this very clear image, and I said, well, Apple has spent billions of dollars and decades to come to where they are today. That's not you. So don't get too clever and don't get too stark and clean and don't be too curious. Yeah, you could add curiosity into your messaging and your branding and all that, but don't overdo it in that. So focus your message and your brand. Yeah.
Jim, and I know you're on a roll here, and I don't want to veer off the road too far, but I'm with you on that. It's like hit people over the head with what it is that you do. Right. And why they should care, because you got 3 to 5 seconds. Somebody's passing by your 10-foot, 20-foot booth, whatever it is, bigger booth, maybe a little longer, but you have a very short period of time to hook them. And you were curious and went in and asked, but most people are just going to walk by like, I don't know what that is. It doesn't mean anything to me. I don't have the time to go wonder. Right. So hit people over the head with exactly what it is that you do and why they should care.
Yeah. And the why they should care is really, really important, because you don't want to blend in with all of your competitors. You don't want them saying, okay, I've got these 4 choices and they're all equal. No. How are you better than your competitors? Make sure that stands out in some way. I mean, I go back, Chris, you'll remember this, the old Avis rental car commercials back in the day was, we try harder. It's like, that's a great message, because no one can refute that. No, you don't. We try hard. No one's going to say that. We try harder. That's a great customer service message. And we knew that they were a rental car company. So if I'm choosing, maybe they're going to take a little more attention to me. So what can you say to make yourself stand out? Maybe it's not something customer service. Maybe it's product features. Maybe you're going to save money over someone. Whatever it is, make sure you're highlighting what makes you different and special and unique. Yeah, thanks, Chris. It's so important. You don't want to blend in. That's for sure. The step four is now we design the attendee journey. So when people come to your booth, and whether that is a 10 by 10 or it's a 50 by 50, people are going to do one of 2 things. Well, one of 3 things. They're going to walk right past your booth. But if they come and stop at your booth, are they going to just stop at your booth, or are you going to take them on a journey? I guess the best way to think of this is, if you're looking at your dream car, are you looking at it from the outside? Are you peeking through the window because the doors are locked? Or are you inviting people to sit in there and let's go on a test drive, and let me show you why we're special, and get an idea of what it's like to be with us, and design that journey from the time you're engaging them to building some curiosity. But more importantly, let's find out about the attendee, the person that's standing right across from me, get all that information out from them. And then we take them on the journey, and we can craft our message to them based on what they just told us. Don't just spew something generic that might not be what they want to hear. You might have something very specific that can be right to their needs. So you want to make sure we're talking to them very specifically. And then we want to figure out, what is the final step? What is our goal? Did we qualify them? Is our goal to set an appointment, to schedule a demo, to write an order? Maybe you're in an industry where you can write orders right there on the show floor. What is our goal? Make sure you are leading people to that goal, and then get them out of your booth because we want more people in our booth. And the longer someone stands in our booth, we are missing opportunities for other people that are walking past. So it's designing that attendee journey and be very, very intentional, which leads to our next step, number 5, and that is training our staff for success. And so now that we have our goals, we've got our attendee journey, we've set the metrics, we've set the branding, we need to train every person that's going to be working at our booth on all of those things. Everyone should be crystal clear on the engagement questions. What are we telling people to bring them into the booth? How are we presenting our company? What are we saying? What are our most common questions that we get? And everyone's got a standard answer that we're not to be robots, but so that we are saying consistently, no matter who they go up to in the booth, they're getting a consistent message about our brand and what we do and our products and things like that. And make sure everyone understands what is this journey we're taking people on and what are our goals. And maybe what is my specific goal? And we talked about this a little bit earlier. What is my specific goals? What are my things that when I leave the show, was that a good investment for my company for me to be there? Did I hit my goals? And am I proud of the work that I did? Or was I just thinking about, oh, we're in Vegas, I can't wait to go. We got tickets for that Cirque du Soleil show later on. And and we're going to dinner at this great steakhouse. And am I thinking about that? Or am I thinking more about how am I presenting, and am I helping my company reach the goals that we're doing here at the show? So train your staff for success.
I think you're speaking Dana's love language on that. So as a designer who's also our EVP of strategy, that's where her brain lives. And having just done Exhibitor Live, we had a 10 by 30 space, and we had a literal journey that started on the left and it moved through the booth, and it was
nice.
All of these different engagements and everything that Dana and her creative team kind of ideated and came up with. So what we actually had, and one of the things that we try to do is we try to also talk about the alignment of sales and marketing in the effort and how we need to kind of get those, everybody on the same page. Actually just talked about it last week with Ed Marsh. But Dana did a great job. She brought in some of the rest of her creative team into the sales meeting, and pictures of the booth. Here's, the renderings and so forth. Here's what's happening, right? To kind of walk us through to understand what that customer journey was going to be, the talking points at each one of those locations. There was a cool interactive process where the customer would, select a really interesting kind of feather. The idea was like a feather in your cap. It was a great theme and great idea that was executed really well. So at the end of the day, they had to put some information into the portal in order to be registered to win something. And she and her team did a fantastic job of guiding the salespeople who were going to be the primary workers in the space, through that journey, so that we all knew what we were talking about, right? And we weren't just showing up there, like you said, kind of being like, what are we doing here again? Oh yeah, we're trying to sell exhibits, right? So boils down to the pre-work and the goals ahead of time.
That's it. I love that. Thank you for bringing that, because that gives people now, hopefully they're starting to get the wheel spinning as to how can they do that for their company. Again, you don't need a 10 by 30, maybe you have a 10 by 10, but maybe you even have a bigger space. If you have a bigger space, it could even be more challenging, because and it might not be a journey that people go through where they're going from one step to another physically, where they're going from one side of the booth to another, but maybe it's just you're taking them on a journey where you're talking about them. Maybe you're pointing to things on some sort of a roadmap or things in your display. It's so just important to make sure you have that orchestrated ahead of time. Yeah, that pre-planning is everything. Good job, Dana. Way to go.
Thanks. Well, I did what you said. I took the audience into consideration. They were there to learn. That's what that particular show, Exhibitor Live, it's awesome. It's one of my favorite shows. And they're all about educating trade show and event managers. So if that was what they would, put a feather in your hat, right? Learn some more knowledge. What are you already strong at? So even when it came to the different types of engagement, there was digital engagement, there was curiosity evoking, there was hands-on engagement, like you said, different senses. But yes, part of that was entering so you could win a thing that made sense with our theme. But then when they were doing that, they were also being able to download a bunch of tips and cheat sheets that we had created specifically for trade show and event managers, because they were there to learn. So we were basically saying, we're here to support you as part of your team. So whether you work with us or not, we'd love to work with you. But even if we don't, we still want to help you get what you want out of the show. So here is some more knowledge.
Yeah, I knew it was in the right place, because that's my that's the way
it's your jam.
The way I approach people. It's like, people have said to me before, Jim, you give away a lot of content. And it's like, yeah. And people, especially those that have never done this before, they're going to go, this is a lot of work. Maybe I need some help. So,
like we said earlier, everyone knows something. Everyone's good at something. Every single person.
Absolutely.
And everyone should teach whatever that thing is, right? be open
I
and
love it.
teach the thing that you know, because we'll
Love
all
it.
be dead someday, and it's not going to help anyone that we take it with us, right?
That's for sure. That's for sure. All right. So let me move on past step 5, which is training your staff for success, to step 6, and that is market to drive traffic. Letting people know that you're going to be at the show obviously is a great thing to do, using whatever you've got available to you, social media and your email list and all that. But going beyond that, because you're most of the people on your show list or on your in your social feed, most of the people in your email list, your company's email list, your personal email list, most likely not all those people are going to be at the show. And so you're not hitting your true audience. So find out, what does the show have available for you for marketing to people that are actually going to be coming to the show, the people that are registered for the show, to the other exhibitors. How can you take advantage of whatever marketing that they have available? And then make sure you are doing everything you can to drive traffic to your booth. Don't just say, I'm going to be here. Don't just say that, because everybody else at the show is going to be there. But why should they stop to your booth? Why should they specifically seek you out? Whether that's some sort of promotion you're running, you're doing a demo, you're launching a new product, new service, you've got a special something going on in your booth, you're giving a little mini seminar, whatever it is, give them a reason why they need to stop to your booth. So, but marketing is a super important thing that you've got to do ahead of time, and that takes all that takes extra planning as to how we're going to do this. And then during the show, how are we going to continue to market to get people? Can we do so? At that point, now you're relying on social and doing maybe some geo targeting and things like that to get people who are maybe at the show already into your booth. So very, very strategic, but you got to think of this ahead of time, and you got to have your messaging planned out and all of that, so that you are driving, and not just marketing that we're going to be there, but market to truly drive traffic to your booth. So that's number 6. Number 7, create that follow-up strategy. And automate as much as possible, but make sure you have that follow-up strategy fully designed and ready to go before the show. Do not wait until you come back from the show, because if, say, the show is multiple days, you've been out of the office 3, 4, 5 days, maybe an entire week. By the time you get back, chaos happens, because you've got all those emails, and you may have had all the best intentions that at the end of each night, I'm going to respond to all my emails, I'm going to do this, I'm going to stay caught up, and then there's dinners and there's all these other things that happen, and then you come back to an avalanche of stuff, and life happens, and maybe there's stuff in your personal life that is going on, and all of a sudden the follow-ups don't happen. And oh shoot, I was going to send an email, I was going to reach out, I was going to do this, and that just doesn't happen, or it gets kicked down the road. And then by the time you may have had a fantastic conversation with someone, and you wait too long, and you reach them, and they went with one of your competitors who was also at the show. So you don't want to miss that out. So follow up, have that strategy in place, and automate it as much as possible. So you could just dump those emails into your drip campaigns, and automatically things are going out. Customize it as much as you can. So whether someone just stopped by the booth, you scan their badge, versus someone you had a great conversation with, make sure they're not just both getting a generic message of thanks for stopping by our booth, but give a little love to those people who actually you had great conversations with. But this is all something that needs to be designed and thought through and put in place before the show, because life happens and work happens while you're there at the show. And then that leads to the last step number 8, and that is executing your best show ever. If your people are trained well, make sure whoever is in charge of your staff, if that's you, then make sure you're meeting, everyone's there at the booth 15 minutes before, at least, before everything starts. You have that pre-show meeting. Okay, here's what we're doing today. Everyone locked and loaded. Make sure that you have everyone in place and that everyone's is doing well, and then just execute and make sure you're keeping an eye on things. And does your booth look as good halfway through that first day as it did when you opened the show? It should. It should. And so maybe there's somebody in charge of just going around and make sure that, oh, someone left a water bottle over here on the counter. Let's get rid of that. Someone, the stack of pens that looked all nice and neat at the start of the day is all over the place. And so you have that. So you're constantly looking and being aware of that. And then at the end of it, celebrate with your team. Or if it's a multi-day show, also do a deep dive at the end of each day. It's super important to learn, what did we learn today? What can we change that is changeable for tomorrow? Don't just go through and this isn't working, we're going to change it next year. No, if you could change something, shoot, no one is looking at this piece of our display. Maybe we should move that. Okay, move it. If you can, move it. If the engagement question that you're using is falling flat, change your engagement question. Whatever it is, make those changes on the fly. And then definitely at the very end, do a deep dive with everybody. Whether that's immediately after the show, immediately is the best, because information kind of disappears as time passes on. So make sure you're doing that deep dive with your team and celebrate with them. Whether the show was great or was not, you put in a lot of work. Go out to a nice dinner or something like that, celebrate with them in some way, and just and then learn for the next time. Take all those lessons and make sure you implement those for future shows. So that's the 8 steps. And then there's that I have a little arrow that goes from 8 to 1 on my roadmap. And that is the continuous improvement arrow. So that is, if you just did this and then didn't learn from it and just repeated it again, that's not a recipe for success. You want to make sure you're learning and getting better and improving every single time, and you'll see your results improve. It's just, it's that simple. It's that simple.
Jim, I love that list, what you've walked us through. And it's really cool in that, like, whether, like you said, whether we're designing a 10 by 10 or 60 by 80, right? The foundational concepts are the same for either, right? And we know from working with our clients, a well-rounded trade show program includes all of those sizes of shows. There might be a couple of really large custom shows per year that get extra effort, and those are the ones, honestly, that you're more likely to put the time and effort into. But don't forget about the bulk of the rest of the shows. When we look at a program, we try to identify, like, what's the workhorse size of your exhibit program. And oftentimes, again, right, we've got the 40 by 40 that we do twice a year, and then we do 30 by 20 by 30. But the bulk with the workhorse is a 10 by 20, or the workhorse is a 20 by 20. We're going to roll out 10 of those.
Mm-hmm.
And those are easy to kind of whistle past the graveyard. If you do them, it's just kind of like rinse and repeat. But it's right. Like, listen, regardless of the size of the budget has never really been under more of a microscope than it is right now. So it's super important that whatever ROI we need to extract from our event program, we're doing the best we can do at every single event in order to yield the best, that we can get, right? So when you shortcut and when you don't put the time and effort into, regardless of the size exhibit, regardless of the scope, right? When you don't put in the time and effort to do it right, that's when you're not going to get the ROI that you need, right? And listen, if you're watching this show, you're involved in the event industry in some way, you're probably responsible for that for that team, or for the dollars, or for the ROI, right? So we all we got to look out for what we're in charge of and what we're responsible for, and make sure we're helping the team have the best possible outcome that we can.
Yeah, those 3 magic letters, ROI. So that's what it's all about. And these shows are expensive, and they take a lot of resources, time, money, energy. There's so much, and we need to be aware of everything that goes into, what does it mean just to break even? Do we understand that? Because every time we bring someone in out of the field or out of their day job, there's also a lost opportunity cost. They're not doing their day job. So if they're a sales rep, they're not selling. I mean, obviously we're there to fill the pipeline and future sales and all that. There's just so much that we need to be aware of.
Yeah, exactly. So, hey, listen, at the Exhibitor Marketers Toolbox, which we're in right now, we're sharpening the saws and the axes and the hatchets and all in that toolbox. We aim to try to come in somewhere in the 35 to 40-minute range, just so this doesn't turn into a really long, obtrusive situation, right? Although we had some more questions designed, I mean, you hit on some amazing stuff, and there's obviously the opportunity to do a whole much deeper dive with Jim and the trade show university. So we always like to just kind of close with asking, a question, a thumped question, as it were. So Jim, you've hit on a whole bunch of things. You got 30 something years worth of stuff in your brain. You started as a kid in a candy store, and here you are sharing all of these wonderful things. Could you boil it down to maybe three things for whether you were a new exhibit manager or new to exhibiting or a seasoned professional? Are there three things that kind of really stick out for you that you want to maybe able to leave our audience with by chance?
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Try to boil it down to three. I guess the first would, and Dana, you mentioned this also, and that is understanding your audience. If you're just going in there and you don't know your audience, you're just going to be, it's going to be a message that's lost on everybody, and it could be a huge waste of time and money. So understand everything you can about your audience, especially what are their needs, what are their pain points, what are their hot buttons and if you can meet those, that is going to be so key. The second thing is the goals, setting the goals and the metrics, doing it right, taking the time to invest in setting the right goals is so important. I guess the third thing, and I really didn't touch on this, but it's what we all do, and that is understanding. One is that you don't know what you don't know. Especially if you're new to the industry that you're going into, maybe you're with a company that's done trade shows for years. You spend a lot on trade shows, but now you're expanding into a new vertical market, or you're going to a new show you've never been to before. Reach out and get a coach. Get someone who can coach you along this to make sure you haven't missed anything. That's why I love working with companies, because you think about every single professional athlete, from Michael Jordan to Tiger Woods, they all have personal coaches. They don't seem like they would need the ones that need it, but they all do. And the top CEOs all have personal coaches and trainers and boards that guide them. Don't just go in and say, oh, we know how to do a trade show. We've been there before, and we don't. No, get somebody who can help guide you along the way. People like Chris and Dana, who work with companies every day. You could help you craft your message, your display. And that's what I love to do as well. Just make sure that they haven't missed anything, because you don't know what you don't know. So those would be my top three.
Those are awesome points. Jim, if people wanted to get more information on the 8-point roadmap, or literally have that, how would they get access to that type of information from you?
Yeah, I would say if you want to reach out to me directly, jim@tradeshowu.biz is my email address. That's jim@tradeshow.biz. Or connect with me on LinkedIn is a great way. I'm very active on LinkedIn, so make sure you connect with me there. Be happy to talk with you one-on-one. I set up 15-minute discovery calls that are absolutely no charge. So if you want to do that, and my website, tradeshowu.biz, tradeshow.biz, is where we're just reinventing ourselves right now at Trade Show University. So excited for people to see that as well.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for being a resource for our community here. I mean, what we're trying to do with Event Marketers Toolbox is very much in alignment with what you're already and have been doing at Trade Show University. Really, right? I love the idea and the famous statement made popular by JFK of a rising tide raises all ships, right? So despite the fact that we work in an industry where there's several competitors and so forth, I'm coming out of COVID, I really kind of leaned into the idea that we just need to kind of wrap our arms around this community as a whole, regardless of the laundry color that you're wearing. And we help everybody get better. It's going to make trade shows more productive. It's going to make companies more profitable. And those shows will continue to grow, right? So if we all kind of lean in and try to do this together, we're all going to be the benefactors of an up-leveled, field.
Absolutely. Get better and help others get better. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Keep reaching out. It's a great industry. And there's enough business for everybody. There really is.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. This has been a fantastic episode, Jim. Thanks so much for
Thanks,
joining
Jim.
us.
You.
We really
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thanks everybody for tuning in to I was going to say tuning into Trade Show University, tuning into the Event Marketers
Careful, he'll
Toolbox.
take over your other
But,
podcast. He's so shy.
Uh,
All right. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks,
Appreciate